Because what I understand from programming is like languages, right? Like speaking English or speaking Spanish or whatever, whatnot. Is the language then the same, but how it translates different?
So the website, if you're building websites, it's going to be a different language. So websites are like React or Vue or Angular or those kinds of things using TypeScript or JavaScript. It's going to be a different language than what I'm using is C#, which is the Unity game engine. Or you could do C++, which is the Unreal Engine, and then Godot uses C#, C++, and like a few other languages, I think. But yeah, C# is the one that I knew how to learn, and so that was honestly the reason that I chose Unity as a game engine, because I knew how to code in C#. If I knew how to code C++, I'd probably be developing on Unreal Engine at the moment.
Yeah. You said before that you started with programming normal games, like not VR, right? How is that different from normal games to VR, or is that
it's actually similar? Really similar.
Okay.
A lot of people don't realize how similar like a first-person shooter game is to like a VR game. Because you still have all the different, like, your gun still needs to reload, your the bullets still need to reach out and hit things, and the levels, like the dialogue still needs to happen, and your characters still need to move around, and like all that stuff is the same. The only difference is the way that the player interacts with the world. And so instead of walking like within a range of like a chest and pressing A to open it, and like the chest opens by itself and does a little animation, you have to add in like a grab point for the chest and then have it hinge on its own based on how the player's moving it. And then in the background, your game has to realize, okay, the chest is open, so I need to like, add some skill points or do an animation or whatever. So it's like a little different approach as opposed to like, it's definitely easier to do like a first-person shooter or a 3D game.
So it's almost actually as if VR, the technology, is what makes the difference. That's actually putting you inside of the experience,
exactly,
rather than playing it on a computer. Oh, that's interesting, actually.
Weird stuff that you don't think about when you're doing a first-person shooter, where you're like, if you're doing a first-person shooter, you just put a collider on the person and then like all the walls, and then you can't walk through the walls. But if you do that in VR, you put a collider on the person. If they're trying to move, they won't walk through the walls. But if they move in real life and take a step, they're still going to pass through the wall.
Yeah.
Because even though they're not like moving. So you have to kind of like come up with little tricks to like, prevent them from doing stuff like that.
Yeah, interesting. I guess a lot of testing as well involved in that.
Oh, yes.
We're like, okay, this doesn't work. Got to change that.
Well, I'll even test if it's not specifically an interaction thing that I'm testing, I usually will make my game like a first-person game, where I can like it'll have a mode where I can play it in first person, where I can walk around and trigger animations and do stuff. But then if I'm testing interactions, then I can swap it back to VR, and that helps me speed up that development process a little bit.